Hey everyone, Drew here, and on my latest video about an arena battle against a 600 million power player, I got some requests in the comments, basically to analyze my current arena lineup and explain the thought process behind it. So let's do that. Here we have the latest lineup for arena from my free-to-play account, and first we see Earth Musha, who is an absolute unit, the number one in my SSR world rankings, and that is mainly because of her stealthy vengeance in combination with the stealth fury that can hit too, so can usually hit beyond guards, targeting someone like Dark Sheen or Storm Almina, easily wiping them out before they even get a chance to do anything. So I'm still kind of convinced that Earth Musha kind of single-handedly pushed back those units into the later platoons of many very strong players. The Stealthy Vengeance, which gives her stealth, produces one spirit, and enrages her, of course only triggers if one of your non-conjured teammates dies. And here's where my second unit comes in to hopefully get the ball rolling very early, and that is Stormcaller, who I didn't give any weapon to, I didn't give any accessory to, and I didn't level her up any further than is required for her Mega Elixir passive to trigger. And that Mega Elixir passive I mainly like because it quickens the remaining units on the battlefield, and that is the other three starter units that I have here. And usually this should already let Earth Musha strike at her first turn, something that is very important, and she will already do it faster, 20% faster than usual. If Stormcaller does survive and get a turn in, then if she has enough spirit, she will use her very strong stun too, which is good, but the problem is also that her hate will fall off a bit then, and then she might actually survive a bit longer than you would actually want her to. At least there is the minion loot going for her, so if you get some kills in and she is still alive, you also produce some Moris in the back, and maybe she does some blood stuns. Just don't want her to do the time assassin, which will be absolutely worthless at her power level. The next unit is Water Snow White, who is very fast, so she will usually get the first turn and do a healing stealth. After Stormcaller dies, she will have to reapply that stealth, but that will only cost her 40 time units, so that's already good. And sometimes in the combination with the attack from Earth Musha, for example, there might be a unit that is left with 1 HP from their hold ground, and then she can kill that unit off and immediately put another enemy to sleep. And another unit that has a deadly passive, because Water Snow White has that kind of deadly sleep passive, we have the deadly momentum passive on the fourth unit, which is Lancelot. She has the counter skin just as Water Snow White has, and usually if she gets the turn and she has enough spirit to stun, then she will use that instant stun and then immediately use the Royal Swift Slash, maybe taking out some unit, hopefully, because that is the idea why I have her so early, because she needs to unlock her hold ground from the deadly momentum, or kind of like the endure passive, which gives her a temporary hold ground. And I found the best possibility for her to do that is if she's in the lineup early and doesn't come in later, because her speed is really low, and that is her biggest weakness. One problem that I have sometimes with her in this fourth position, so in the starting four, is that sometimes for some reason some units have a higher hate boner for her than for Stormcaller, which is something I don't like as much. The positive thing about this is that usually if a unit attacks you this quickly, like Storm Lancelot is being attacked this quickly, it's not an attack that will take her out. For example, Dark Snow White's Blood Assassin always goes for the Stormcaller, and she does have the region counter skin, so she heals back immediately and might also get the chance to use the Royal Swift Slash. And the fifth unit should enable her to have even more chance for that, because Stormcaller usually dies very quickly, and then we have Stormrolosha coming in, stunning 2 enemies. So we have a lot of stunning going on here, kind of hopefully debilitating the enemy team at first and letting Earthmusha on the one hand taking out some of the enemies with the passives that you would rather avoid. Water Snow White also being able to ignore some of the passives. I mean, even Lancelot can avoid passives with her Stealth Avenger, so they are all kind of 3 stealth units in their own kind, but 2 of them have the deadly passive, which actually incentivizes kills, so the enemy team should fall asleep a bit, or, you know, Lancelot gets a few turns and hopefully enables her hold ground, and Earthmusha can hit beyond the guards in between. Stormrolosha also has some high hate, so even if she gets the turn, sometimes what I don't like so much about Stormrolosha, she will use her Chrono Stun, which is a strong stun, don't get me wrong, but I would rather have her step back immediately if she has enough spirit to do that, so she can come in again to stun. But usually she dies before, so from the first platoon, usually being left standing, there are Earthmusha, Water Snow White, and Lancelot, which is what I would like to see, because those 3 together are really good. And speaking of good synergy, with the 6th unit coming in, Watercolon, some even greater synergy is unlocked. I mean, Watercolon has the Hold Ground Plus going in her favor, but there's also the Spirit Loot, which means if we have Lancelot going on some wild killing spree, she is enabled to continue to do that by Watercolon, because every time she might get a kill, for example with the Stealth Avenger, it's actually a spirit neutral attack by the Spirit Loot of Watercolon, so it's basically zero-sum game, and that is really good. And then we also have the imposters that Watercolon produces, kind of taking out some of the enemy teammates, maybe team guards, so that it is even easier for Lancelot and Water Snow White to get some significant kills. When one of these 4 units dies, we still have 3 standing that are really strong and good attackers, and so it's nice to have a guard come in Lightloot Miller, who is a 100% guard with a Hold Ground passive, and that makes her still very strong at a low level, at just 1 copy, as I have her here. Usually Earthmusha is still alive at this point, so Lightloot Miller dying will trigger her Stealthy Vengeance passive yet again. Next up we have Lighty Beaky, who is another Hold Ground Plus unit with a kind of mixed skill set. She should usually banish a unit first, and hopefully she will banish something really good like an enemy Earthmusha that might be still alive at that point. So that is kind of her big value point at first, but then she also has the Lucky Moris that she should produce, kind of these auto guards that she has a 50% of conjuring every time she gets a turn. Other than that, she has some strong attacks, but I don't have her at a very high power and at just 1 copy, so they don't hit really hard. And sometimes what I really dislike about her, just one on a side note, is that she might use her vengeance skill on a sleeping unit and waking that unit up, and then Water Snow White, for example, can't get to use Frozen Dreams on that unit. But regardless, next up we have another guard coming in. You can sense a theme here, even with, you know, Lighty Beaky. One theme is kind of having additional guards, even though they don't procure the Earthmusha Stealthy Vengeance passive. We have Brightloot Miller coming in. Of course, Brightloot Miller is someone that if she gets her turn, which I hope she does, because then she can use the Shield of Aldine. The Shield of Aldine actually removes stealth on any of your units and replaces it with armor, but that is a downside that I'm willing to take at this point of the battle. One more note also, Watercolon's Hold Ground Plus hopefully has already triggered, and she used her Flip Sleep before Brightloot Miller uses her Shield of Aldine. Otherwise, she might actually not get to use Flip Sleep at all, because she only uses it if she is at 1 HP. Next we have a supporter coming in Light Mirai, who should provide us with plenty spirit if she survives, that is, and can possibly give some turns to your stronger units. Unfortunately, with more and more stealth characters, she isn't as ignored as she used to be. Her stun revenge passive was usually enough to deter any enemies. Now she is kind of vulnerable to stealth units, but as you see, we have Brightlet Miller near her, so maybe she is even guarded for a while. And yeah, she should hopefully produce a lot of spirit for us. Again, something that is nice in the combination with Lancelot, because Lancelot might get the turn often if she goes on another killing spree, and then with every one of these turns she produces another spirit, as long as Light Mirai's Song of Rejuvenation is still going on. And if it does run out, we do have Earthray coming in next, who is able to reset her, and she usually really likes to reset Light Mirai. There's a big modifier, I think, in her AI to replace Light Mirai with her Shikigami. And the biggest value I get from her is actually that Shikigami replacement, kind of resetting entry passives. That is for Light Mirai, but you can also look at Brightlet Miller. She might possibly reset her if she's still alive and already used her step back. So that is also a nice way to get possibly a third Shield of Eldine in. And there's also someone like Light Hibiki even, who might have already used her Hold Ground Plus passive, but if she is reset and sent back from the battlefield, she will come in with the Hold Ground Plus passive active yet again. The same is true for Watercolon, but she can only use her Flip Sleep once. In comparison to that, we have Light Hibiki, who has a 30% heal on every turn. She will actually survive and heal another turn if her Hold Ground Plus passive is triggered again. And then we also have Artimaya coming in after Earthray, another unit with a very strong entry. We get 3 spirit and a stun, and that is also something that might be reset by Earthray. So we have plenty units around her that she could possibly reset. I have to say that sometimes she still makes some very questionable decisions and resets someone like Water Snow White or some other unit when there's obviously a better choice with the stun entry, for example. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it at least gives her a lot of opportunities to do the right thing. And then we get 2 units coming in that dominated the battlefields 1 year ago. We have Storm Elmina and Dark Sheen, and both of them come in so late, as I mentioned earlier, because I would hope that at this point I already took care of the enemy Earth Musha and can safely enter with Storm Elmina and Dark Sheen, who are very, very strong units. I mean, we have Storm Elmina with the stealth and the survivor's rate up to 600% damage just from her stealth power alone. And we have Dark Sheen, who has the survivor's fury, obviously with the healing rage, so up to 750% damage to 2 enemies. And both of them are usually really good at surviving or being ignored by the enemy. And that is where the next unit kind of comes in for me, which is Storm Antares. I still don't have her fully awakened. I think I'm running her at 2 out of 4 awakenings. But I'm actually not sure if I want to fully awaken her. Of course, sometimes she gets some very strong attacks in, like Survivor's Fury, etc. But her main use for me is her Survival Stun Skin All, which is basically stunning all enemies for 50 time units whenever she gets hit by an attack that isn't stealth, for as long as her Survivor's Fury isn't unlocked. And she has the Hold Ground and the Thunder Heart, which stuns an enemy again and heals her for 100%, which she can use for 2 spirit as long as she's under 25% HP. And that is really her main use for me, and so her having a bit lower HP or attack is actually not always that bad if she gets 1 or 2 more Thunder Hearts off because of it. And having low hate units like Storm Almina and Dark Sheen close to her kind of enables her to be hit more often, because units will usually tend to hit her more often then. And as long as her survival stun skin is still live and popping, this is gonna be devastating for the enemy. And then this leads us to the 4th platoon, which is on paper the most powerful platoon from a numbers perspective. It has over 32 million power, but from a practical perspective, I would actually argue that it might be my weakest platoon. We have Snow White coming in, who isn't really supposed to come in that late, but she's not a great opener. Or let me correct it, a great enough opener anymore to start early. So her 2 Moris that are produced at dawn are not procuring, obviously, when she enters this late. And I'm not running any Mori producing units in front. I mean, there are some potential Moris from Storm Colin, but yeah, not really something to write home about. And so she is a bit weakened in the back here, but hopefully she might get in some Purify and produce those Moris for herself, or just, you know, get a lucky attack in, finishing off a hold ground unit, for example, and unlocking Savage Force this way. And then we have a Dark Alice, who has some limitations that I already went over in my latest tier list video, but she's still good, and she should hopefully get some poison and counters in, which would enable her, upon being hit again, to use an instant devour, or maybe sometimes, you know, Dark Sheen is still live and popping and might actually do a poison random on 2 enemies sometimes that Dark Alice could abuse with her instant devour. The bigger hope though is that she gets some mega poison crushes in, and hopefully also some revenges by, for example, Ossia coming in next. She's a unit with high hate, so hopefully she will be attacked, not even get any turn except to flip stun random, and then die quickly and poisoning the enemy with the mega poison in the process. Next we have a Dark Reset, who comes in and hopefully is able to possibly get some poison drains in, or poison random some of the enemies with her super poison. She also has the poison skin, which might trigger if she's not attacked by a stealthed attack, but usually she also dies quickly and hopefully triggers another mega poison revenge from Dark Alice. If not, and the battle is so far already, she might also be okay-ish at taking out enemy minions. And last but not least, we have original Storm Anya, who has the auto barrier as long as she hasn't activated her guard, and hopefully at this point I have taken out most, if not all, of the enemies on the enemy team that have the ability to ignore armor passives. She might also be easily able to unlock her Savage Force by killing off a Mori or a unit at hold ground with her Swift Strike. And if all else fails, she still might be a temporary garden. Also, she has hold ground going for her, as well as her potential retribution drain. So you could say that my 4th platoon is mostly made up of delay units that hopefully enable some of my earlier units to do and go about their business a while longer. Maybe one of my strong starter units, or Storm Almina and Dark Sheen, who should be still alive hopefully at this point, and then these 3 strong units can still wreak havoc while the enemy is focusing on these other units to take out. So that's my current lineup. Obviously there will be changes again with new summoned units in the future, which you will see in the arena, for example, if you like and subscribe to become a true carrot. I hope you slide well into the new year, as we would say in German, and as always, thanks for watching.